This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this date. And on this day, June 17th, in the year 1997, 25 years ago when this is being taped, the NHL decided to expand past the 2016 thing and added 4 new franchises that be spread out over 3 years. So the NHL started out in 1917 with supposed to be 4 teams, but it only had to be 3: Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto. No, sorry, 4 teams. The Montreal Wanderers were there, but they were 1-5 and the arena burned down. So that looked pretty bad for them. And Quebec wanted to be in, but they had some issues, so they didn't come for a few years until the next year. Quebec, we got Hamilton. Hamilton had an NHL team before that turned into the New York Americans, and then in 1924, the NHL decided to add 2 new teams, that being the Montreal Maroons and the Boston Bruins. And then in 1926, they expanded again to New York for the New York Rangers, and I think Pittsburgh got the other franchise. Yeah, Pittsburgh did. Long story short, the NHL had many franchises and many franchise moves in the 1930s. By the time 1942 came around, there were only 6 NHL teams: Montreal, Toronto, Detroit, Chicago, Boston, and New York. So basically, that was it for 25 years. It was just 6 teams. Baseball had 16, basketball had, I think, 9 or 10, and football had plenty, like 10 in the NFL. But the NHL decided to expand because everyone else was expanding. Baseball expanded in 1961, a couple teams, and in 1962 they expanded 2 teams. Football would partially expand because some teams wanted to be in the NFL instead of the AFL. They were competing with the AFL. And basketball expanded by several teams. So hockey needed to do the same thing, even though that you had a 6 hockey mad markets. So the NHL decided to expand to 6 new places. There were Minnesota, that became Dallas in '93, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Los Angeles, and Oakland. Yes, Oakland, California had an NHL team. But of course, after so much bankruptcy and so much franchise shifts, despite all that, the NHL expanded in 1970 to Buffalo and Vancouver, 72 to Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta had a franchise in the 70s, and the New York Islanders. 1974, Kansas City and Denver got teams. No, Kansas City and Washington, got teams. And then 1976, Colorado got a team. The mess of the 70s had 17 franchises by 79. But because the WHA was a strong competitor, the NHL decided to add 4 teams in. And Canadian fans were happy, kind of. The three of the 4 teams were in the WHA were Canadian: Edmonton, Quebec City, and Winnipeg. Hartford was the other one. Of course, Canadian fans were upset because they wanted the Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver dynamic. Vancouver got in trouble because their governor, their main guy, actually voted against the merger. However, Frank Griffiths, the guy who owned the Canucks, said, "I sent my representative to tell him the vote would be yes for the merger." Anyway, yeah, Molson breweries were actually boycotted because they didn't want another team didn't want to give up their Canadian broadcasting monopoly. Regardless, in the 1980s, there weren't too many franchise ships, if at all. I know Atlanta went to Calgary, and Colorado went to New Jersey. But anyhow, the NHL of the 90s expanded with San Jose getting a team in 1991-92. All for the want of the fact that the Minnesota minority owners, the Gunn brothers, wanted to move the Minnesota North Stars to San Jose because, San Jose was a tech hub. But the NHL said, no way, you could actually pick up some North Stars players in a dispersal draft, and then the North Stars would compete in the expansion draft. to get players back. And then in 92 and 93, respectively, the NHL expanded 2 teams. 92 was Tampa and Ottawa. 93 was Florida, well, South Florida, and Anaheim. So we had 26 teams in the NHL. But the NHL wanted more. And in 97, they said they would do a 4-team expansion, but staggered. In 1998, the 98-99 season, they said Nashville will get into the NHL. So there'll be one season in which there would be an odd number team with 27. So Nashville would get a team. It's weird. Hockey in Tennessee. There were rumors that Nashville was going to swipe either Edmonton or New Jersey. Especially with the Devils in 95 because they were making a cup run and there were rumors they were going to move the team to Nashville. But no, that didn't happen. Nashville got an expansion team. They were called the Predators because when they were trying to build Nashville's arena, they found a saber-toothed skeleton. So they were the Predators. Country music and hockey weren't really mixed, but they made it work. And Nashville got to the finals in 2016. And David Legwand lasted almost all his career with the Predators. Barry Trotz as well. The NHL would have announced in the 99-2000 season that there would be the 98. No, Nashville was 97-98, wasn't it? No, wait. Yeah, sorry. 99-2000 was, yes, it was. It was Atlanta who would get it. The Atlanta Thrashers, because Thrashers were the state bird of Georgia. But it'd be weird you put a team in Atlanta after it lasted like 8 years and then failed to impress hockey fans down in Georgia, and they basically moved the team to Calgary, moved it to Canada, which should be happening with the Coyotes, but whatever. So yeah, the Thrashers came to prominence. They were terrible. They only had one playoff appearance in Atlanta in their 13-year history being in Atlanta. And that was 2007 when they got the Southeast Division. They won their division, but unfortunately the New York Rangers swept them. So yeah, the Thrashers were terrible. They started the careers of Danny Heatley and Ilya Kovalchuk. But unfortunately the team had problems. Heatley got in trouble because he inadvertently caused his teammate Dan Snyder's death in that accident with the Porsche in 2003, which saw Heatley be knocked off the cover of NHL 2004 and redone with the cover of Joe Sakic. The team just sucked and all that. They were hemorrhaging money. Batman for years would refuse to move Atlanta or Nashville or any team to Southern Ontario. Big prick. Fortunately, the politics and money would be there, and Winnipeg got their franchise back in 2011. They got the Atlanta franchise because Atlanta just couldn't afford it. And Winnipeg has brought in some great fans. They have a great fan base. They haven't been to the finals, but they're getting close, I hope. And then they announced in the 2000-2001 season that 2 teams would join, Columbus and Minnesota. Columbus, it'd be weird that you put a team in Ohio. I mean, the Cleveland Barons were there in the NHL for a couple of years in the 1970s, but only because the Golden Seals sucked. They were hemorrhaging money, and they moved the team to Cleveland. Unfortunately, Cleveland's biggest problem was putting the arena in Richfield, Ohio, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the fans couldn't get to there. Cleveland did the weirdest thing. They merged with the Minnesota North Stars. So the Barons players went to Minnesota and became North Stars. So they eliminated franchise without relocating the Barons, which was funny. And that was why there was an odd number of teams for many freaking years. Till 92. But the funny thing is, yeah, Columbus got their team. They haven't been that bad. I mean, the goal cannon was huge and all of that. But yeah, Columbus pulled off one of the biggest shocks in 2019 when they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, and Tampa won 62 games. The weird thing is, after that loss, Tampa has had the motivation to win back-to-back Stanley Cups, and as of this taping, they're aiming for Stanley Cup number 3 against Colorado. And what about Minnesota? The team that had one of the great expansion franchises of 67 onwards. The North Stars were good. They never made the final. Well, they didn't make the final until 1981 when they got taken down by the New York Islanders, But their 1991 run was huge. Minnesota was hemorrhaging money. There were rumors that the North Stars were going to fold and, well, leave Minnesota for San Jose and the Gunn brothers. But the NHL said, no, but we will give you an expansion franchise. So the North Stars were pathetic, and it looked like nothing was going to happen. The North Stars staggered into the playoffs and were the fourth team in the North Division. The North, because in those days, in the 1990s, the early 90s, you had a great chance to make the playoffs. The top four teams from each division would make the playoffs. So you had a 4 and 5 chance. And with the Leafs sucking so badly, Minnesota easily got in. Minnesota would take on Chicago, shocked the number one team in the NHL, the Chicago Blackhawks in 91 in the first round. And then they took down the number 2 team, St. Louis, in the second round. They shocked Edmonton, who were the defending Stanley Cup champs at that time. And then they pushed Pittsburgh to 6 games, although they got crushed 8-0 in Game 6. However, the North Stars were still hemorrhaging money. Norm Green decided to send the team to Dallas for the 93-94 season. So the Stars went down south. Batman must be shitting his pants in excitement. Minnesota was left without hockey. They still had a good high school programs. They had good college programs. But Minnesota was rewarded in 1997 with their patience with it. NHL franchise 2001. They haven't got to the final, but they were close in 2003. They pulled off not one, but 2 massive shocks. They were down 3-1 to the Colorado Avalanche of my idol, Patrick Roy. Came back to win. Andrew Brunette retired Patrick Roy with that overtime goal in Game 7. They were down 3-1 to the Vancouver Canucks and shocked everyone by doing it and making sure Dad Kluche's time was short in the NHL. And then, they faced fellow Cinderella Anaheim, and they got swept by the Ducks. Weird. But yeah, 4 new franchises. And the NHL is still at 30 teams to this day, and well, actually, no, not to this day. What am I thinking? In 2017, they added a 31st franchise with Las Vegas, and now we have a 32 franchise. Seattle has come into play. So, yeah, the NHL's strong relationship, and hopefully 32 teams will be the last of it. We don't want to add any more teams or delete any teams. Well, relocate teams. Relocate the Coyotes, for God's sake. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.